Think about Hollywood stars, there are just one or two that really transcend every decade, aren't they? You kind of think about Humphrey Bogart, and you think also about his trench coat and his trilby, the way that he smoked a cigarette. Everybody knew that look, and many people copied it of that particular era. Of course, there were other people that lasted the course. Let's not forget the brilliant Adam West in Batman, but it's a little bit tricky, isn't it, going around in a bat suit in modern day life? And then there are others whose images are still used to sell the brands of many different things, even today. In fact, a poster from the 1980s featuring, well, this particular icon was such a super seller, they kept putting it out and couldn't reprint enough. As ever, who are we talking about? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. And as ever, thank you so much for joining me today. Yes, this particular man, obviously, I never was lucky enough to meet. We're talking about the superstar actor who left us all too early at the age of 24 years old, James Dean. But I did and was lucky enough to meet someone who did know him. That's right, the celebrated actor himself from The Protectors and so many other great movies, Robert Vaughn, who went to the same method acting school as him, the Lee Strasberg School in New York City. And, when you think about James Dean, as I say, there are a few iconic people that really remain in the spotlight today. You see, if you think about James Dean, he's still able to sell brands very similar to that other icon who left us way too early at 36 years old, Marilyn Monroe. But you couldn't say the same, for instance, of someone who also died very young at 34, Jane Mansfield. So why is it one rule for one and one for the other? Hard to work out, isn't it? But as Robert Vaughn told me, James Dean was not the character at all that he portrayed, or indeed the Warner Brothers studio portrayed. In fact, he was very savvy, very keen on the fame game, and wanted to make sure that whatever happened, he would be remembered. Yes, Robert said he lived recklessly, drank too much, smoked too much, but he felt this was the image. And let's not forget, as I said, by the time he'd started to make his big movies, he was still incredibly very young. Now there's going to be an auction of some of the most intimate material of James Dean, letters back, contracts, all sorts of things and paraphernalia. It's been discovered after many years just in a cardboard box, up for auction, as I say, and many of the items are going to be, well, fetching thousands of pounds. Now, I don't know about you, I've never been really that keen on owning something like that because I always find it incredibly personal. If you read some of the letters, you can see that he was desperately struggling even to attain funds at that particular rate. He'd started the big movies like Giant, East of Eden, stuff like that, with Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, but it wasn't coming in. Obviously, the money really didn't come in, sadly, until after his death. But what is fascinating is that James truly still lives on. His image is owned by someone, I mean, this is incredible, isn't it, when you think, who truly never met him, but, was able to buy the image. This happens with the greats, who sadly don't have any family around. The, controlling the state of Marilyn Monroe, they never met them, but they're making thousands, millions of pounds every year by allowing her image to be used on all sorts of things, from perfume, t-shirts, you get the picture. But as for James Dean, if you're a fan, you might want to check out this particular auction because definitely there's some information that throws a very, brand new light. And as Robert Vaughn did say to me, he knew he was a good actor, but he knew he wasn't a great actor. He had a lot to learn, but what he really masked was his own insecurity. He didn't think he was particularly good looking, but he felt that if he came to become the image that the movies wanted him to be, both on and offset, it was a sellable, marketable value. It certainly was, but even he could not have foreseen how long that would go on for. Sadly, as we all know, we lost him in a tragic car accident at the very young age of 24. But as I often say here on the show, isn't it nice to know that his imagery, his memory still lives on? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.